In Youth Culture Power, the authors put forth their CARE model of youth pedagogy to help teachers create a positive learning environment by building relationships and lessons around students' own culture. Instead of forcing students to give up the things they frequent, they feel teachers should discuss them and, when possible, use them in lessons. The purpose of this book is to present a fresh take on why educators should not discount the culture of the youth within the classroom. Hey y'all, Morgan here, Powaful Impact, and as you know, we are dedicated and committed to bringing uplifting, inspiring, and thought-provoking content that impacts our lives. And in this segment, we'll be exploring that in one of my favorite forms on the planet, books, or literature. The book I chose is called Youth Culture Power. It's a hip-hop ed guide to building teacher-student relationships and increasing student engagement. Now, I know what you're thinking. Morgan, why would I want to read a book where the very title even states it's for building teacher-student relationships? I'm not a teacher. Well, let me tell you, that's because even though it's written by educators and it's used in a way that's to lay groundwork for building engagement within a classroom, the model and ideals within the text actually work for coaches, rec centers, youth mentors, caregivers, really anybody who works with the youth. Just to give you some background on the authors themselves, Jason D Rells is an educator for Columbus City Schools, as well as an adjunct professor at Tiffin University, Ohio University, and Columbus College of Art and Design. He holds an educational doctorate in education administration from Ohio University. Additionally, he's also an accomplished hip-hop producer, artist, and DJ who's worked with the likes of Mos Def, Talib Kweli, Beastie Boys, and Aloe Blacc, as well as releasing over 20 albums. John Robinson is an MC, producer, entrepreneur, and educator. He has released over a dozen albums and toured the world. As a record label president, he has expertise in social media, online marketing, and web development. He currently works in education as a teaching artist in New York City public schools. John is also a partner in Codeciety, which uses original hip-hop music, animated videos, youth culture, and more to teach computational thinking skills to undeserved youth. Now, in this book, D Rells and John Robinson lay out how to get youth culture pedagogy started in classrooms and how they see its potential in making a difference. And they do this by using what's called the CARE model. That's C-A-R-E. C for culture, so embracing youth culture. A is for affable, so creating an affable or a friendly learning environment. R is for relationships. You want to build and maintain positive relationships within your environment or your classrooms. The last one is egalitarian, which is developing an egalitarian teaching style, which basically just means a teaching style that provides everyone within your environment or your classroom the equal opportunity to learn. So I'm just going to touch on two points from the book that I found interesting so that, even if you find that this might not be something you'd want to read, you can at least take something from it. The first point I want to make is from the second chapter, which is called Classroom Chatter. Now, we've all been told this before. Children are meant to be seen and not heard. It's a phrase that's passed down from generation to generation that basically says, shut up and listen. Like, you're young, you're a child, your thoughts, your opinions, they don't matter. You should just listen and learn something. Now, when you're trying to build relationships and positive ones at that, the key to that is communication. When you're using youth culture pedagogy, which is what the book is trying to tell you about, you would actually encourage chatter within reason. You would allow the youth within your care or your environment to hold conversations, which opens up the opportunity to learn about them and their culture, which then provides an opportunity to take what they already know and use it to and apply it in ways to teach them what you're trying to teach them. The other point that I want to talk about is from chapter 4, which is titled Generation XYZ. And it has to do, again, with using what you know and applying it to what you want to teach. So technology is at the very core of Gen Z, right? They have never been without it. And they, it's their main source of learning. You think about, they have never opened an encyclopedia, or, they don't have to read a dictionary. They don't have to learn how to look up words in a dictionary. They literally just look it up on the internet. So the idea is that you, instead of restricting or banishing technology, you would embrace it and find a way to use it within your classroom or within your environment. Now, the chapter also talks about building relationships by bridging generational gaps, which I love because it's something that I'm constantly thinking about and talking about and trying to find a solution to in hip hop. And that's what the chapter talks about. It uses hip hop as a basis because hip hop's so popular. It's worldwide. It's the number one genre. We're at a point where you've got two very different generations, Generation X and Generation Z, and then everything in between, right? That are listening to the same thing. Like, it's not exactly the same. Hip hop from the 80s is not the same hip hop as from today, but it is the same culture. And but we're seeing a lot of divisiveness when it comes to the listeners, from people who've been there from the beginning to people who are listening to it now. So by using youth culture pedagogy, you would learn to use those differences as an opportunity to learn about your youth and connecting with them by comparing similarities and by comparing the two for similarities and differences. But the key is to listen. So I think as adults, we spend so much time trying to force our own ideals on the youth with what we grew up with, instead of taking the time to listen to why they like what they like, to figure out what moves them. Each generation has something new, right? Like, it's continuing to evolve. The next generation will have something different from this one. It's about taking the time to find the connections, to find the similarities, instead of spending that time fighting. That's what it is. You're fighting instead of learning, instead of connecting. Now, I may have lost you with this whole thing, but do not fear, because D Rells and John Robinson actually also created an album for this. Each track aligns with each chapter in the book. It's easily digestible, easily accessible. I think it's available on all DSPs as well as Bandcamp. I'll link everything in the description. So make sure you at least go check that out. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Let me know what you think. As always, like, comment, subscribe. Until next time, this is Powaful Impact, and this is Lit.